Hey, welcome back to Buckeye Barbecue. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to do a pork loin. We're going to do it on the Weber Kettle using the rotisserie attachment. So let's get started. So I thought I would run through my setup real quick. I've got the Weber Kettle with the rotisserie attachment on, which includes this ring here, as well as this motor and of course the spit. Now, in the one side, I do have a charcoal basket that is mostly full. I've got a pan in the bottom, mostly for ease of cleanup, but I will probably also add some moisture in there as part of the cooking process. And I will light a handful of coals, maybe 10 or 12, in a charcoal chimney, dump them on top of the unlit coals. And I've got a couple of chunks of apple wood to throw in for some smoke and some flavor. So that's going to be the setup. I expect this will probably take around 90 minutes, maybe. We'll see. It'll be done when it's done. We'll end up cooking it to an internal temperature of 142 to 43 degrees. Let it carry over and hit 145, which should be the perfect doneness for this cut of meat. So we will get the pork loin on here soon. Okay, we're going to get the pork loin seasoned up. For anybody that doesn't know, the pork loin, it's different from the tenderloin, which is usually two pieces of meat, and it comes off of the baby back ribs. So it's cut off of there. The ribs are then packed, and the tenderloins or excuse me, the loins are packed separately. So we're going to add, I think we're actually going to do the Meat Church Honey Hog first. I'm going to use two different seasonings. And just do a fairly light sprinkle because I am going to season this with two different things, so I don't want to go too heavy on any one of them. Be sure I try to get the sides as well. This was already trimmed up. I really don't like to remove any of the fat. Like Emerald says, pork fat rules, but sometimes they're silver skin. You want to take that off. But usually they're pretty good right out of the packaging. The other rub I'm going to use is the Killer Hogs, the barbecue rub, the hot version. It's really not that hot, but I kind of want the color that this will impart with the paprika that's in it, and I am out of the non-hot version. So we're going to let this dry brine in the refrigerator for a couple hours before I put it on the spit and get it cooking. Some people don't like to season their meat until right before they put it on because they think the salt will dry it out. It's true the salt does pull out moisture, but it actually helps the meat stay moist. You could marinate this in seasoning overnight and it wouldn't really hurt anything. So I only have a couple of hours, so we're just going to do it briefly. All right, that's going to go to the fridge for a couple hours, and we'll bring you back when we put it on the Weber kettle with the rotisserie. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our chimney lit. So I'm just going to use an aim of flame here, and the paper is stuck up under there, so we'll just light it and set her back down. I don't have many coals in this at all, so it's not going to take long. And we'll get them dumped into the little basket that's in the Weber kettle. We're going to do indirect on this, which you probably noticed when I showed you how we were going to set it up. So we're going to have the coals off to the side with a pan underneath the rotisserie and the pork loin turning on it. So I probably won't come back when I dump the coals, but we'll bring you back when everything is all set up and ready before I put the pork on. Okay, so we have our coals lit here. Just lit a handful of them, put them on top of some unlit coals, and they will migrate down and keep this cooker running for plenty of time to cook this pork loin. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on and let the cooker come up to temperature. So I've got the bottom vent of the kettle wide open, and I'm going to open up the top vent wide open. And this is exactly the way I want to put the lid on this cooker. I want the vent opposite of where the coals are, so the smoke travels over the meat and out of the cooker. So we'll let this come up to temperature, and then I'm going to dial back my vents so I don't get too hot, and then we will get our meat on. So I will bring you back shortly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the pork loin on the spit to go on the rotisserie. It's kind of an odd shaped pork loin. I think part of that is because I had it in a food saver when I froze it. I actually cut this from a much larger pork loin because we don't normally need a whole one. So I'm just going to do the best I can to find the center, and then just slowly work it all the way down. The point on this isn't super sharp, but you still need to be a little bit careful, and hopefully it'll come out generally in the center, but you didn't do too bad. And you definitely want to be careful of the spikes on the holder here. I'm going to try to get this through at least one, if not two of the spikes. It's not critical that all of them go through, but you don't want it to spin on the spit. You want it to hold in place. So now I'm going to slide the other one on. And by the way, I have already measured this to know where I wanted this to rest, so I put the locked in the one side early on in order to have it in a good spot centered in the cooker. So there we go. There. Kind of bunch it up just a little bit. That'll help keep it on. And then you need to tighten down the set screws there. So there we go. Hopefully that'll be good. I can always adjust it if I have to. I'm hoping I don't have to, but that should be good. So we'll put this on the cooker in just a minute. Okay, the cooker is up to where I want it, which is between 325 and 350. So I'm going to back down the bottom vent to about halfway, and the same on the top vent. And I might have to adjust those more. We'll see what this does to the temperature, but I'm going to go ahead and get the pork loin on the rotisserie. So there we go. And I always like to turn it on and watch it spin a few times, and not just assume that it's okay in case it's out of balance or sliding around. Doesn't matter if it slides a little bit or moves back and forth as it goes around a little bit, but you want to be careful not to let it really move a lot. You might see that there's some liquid in the bottom of the pan in there. I did throw or pour a couple of beers in there just to keep some moisture in the cooker and add maybe a little bit of flavor. I don't think it'll add much really. Next thing I want to do is add a chunk of apple wood. I'm going to put that right back here on the coals, and that'll give us some flavor and some smoke as it burns. So I'll put that in there. And now we will put the lid back on the cooker. I'm going to watch the temperature closely, make sure it doesn't spike or run too low. I'm thinking this could take hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes, but honestly, I'm not 100% certain. So I will bring you back when we check on it. Because I don't have a wireless thermometer probe, I'm gonna probably temp this about every 30 minutes just because it'll be critical not to run over my target temp of between 140 and 145 because it will dry out quickly after that. Last thing I'll say is I'll apologize for the extraneous noise. Our neighbors are having all of their lawn work done this afternoon, apparently. So this is the real world here. No studio. Okay, it's been right at 30 minutes. The cooker is running actually a little hot, close to 400. So I'm gonna actually close the bottom vent just a little bit, try to back that temperature off. Really won't hurt it, but I want it to cook a little slower. So we'll do that first. And now we'll take a look. Okay, I love the way that's looking. The rub is adding a good amount of color, and the pork loin seems to be stable in the spit, which is another thing I was wanting to make sure of. So it's looking good. I'm just gonna leave it be. The next time that I open the lid, I will probably go ahead and temp it. Like I said, worst thing that we could do here is overcook this. Pork loin loves to be at 145, and it dries out really quick after that. All right. So I think we're gonna do a beer review. I'm gonna move the camera and I'll be back with you in 1 minute. Okay, so tonight's beer is gonna be a Modelo Especial. I love this beer, so this is not the first time I've had it. I'm gonna crack it. The other thing I've got is this beer salt. A good friend of mine turned me onto this. I don't know if you've ever had it, but if you don't, get some. It is great in a Corona or a Modelo. Just pop the lid off, dump a little in. It will cause the beer to fizz a little bit, so you got to be careful of that. But it's got a little lime in it. It really adds good flavor to a beer, especially a Mexican beer like a Corona or a Modelo. So we'll give her a taste. It's a Pilsner style beer. So good. Clean, crisp, refreshing. It's a great beer. It's a great summer beer. It would remind you a little bit of a Corona, but I actually like it a little bit better, and I do like a Corona too. So I would encourage you to grab yourself some Modelo sometime and get some of that beer salt. I'll put a link in the description of this video. We'll be back in probably 30 minutes. Okay, we're gonna check out how our pork loin is doing. Color is looking great. Temperature, by the way, was right around 340, something like that. So I'm going to turn off the rotisserie for now. By the way, it's always important, just have it in your mind, you got to make sure you turn that rotisserie back on. Sort of defeats the purpose if you forget to turn it back on. So let's see what the temperature's reading. I don't know if you can see this or not. By the way, I'm using my Thermapen, best thermometer probe on the market, in my opinion. 93 degrees. So I'm guessing we're going to need another 30 minutes, and then we're going to think about glazing this and letting it temp out at 140, 142 or 3, something like that. And then we'll take it off. So looking good. So I'm going to turn my rotisserie back on, make sure it's spinning right. That's great. Sometimes when you're using this method, you need to shake the ash or the charcoal pan a little bit. Make sure some of that ash falls out and down into the pan. So you make sure you keep your fire going. But I'm really happy with the way this is looking now, so we'll leave it go another 30 minutes. All right. This is just, by the way, a Costco or a Sam's Club pork loin. They have really big pork loins there, so I usually cut it in half or thirds, and then use our food saver to freeze it, and then they make pretty perfect size cuts of meat for our family. So Costco and Sam's have good meat. You can definitely get prime cuts there when you want them, so definitely check them out, and we'll be back in probably 30 minutes. Okay, it's been just over 30 minutes since the last time we checked, so I'm gonna probe this and see where we are temperature wise. Turn off the rotisserie. Okay, you want to be careful not to hit the spit with the temperature probe. All right, that's at 135, a little more than I wanted right now. 138 there, so I'm gonna glaze this. I'm not gonna be scientific about it with the prongs of the spit, so I'm just gonna do the best I can, but probably only gonna be another 10 or 15 minutes, and this is gonna be where I want it to be temperature wise. So I'm just using a Blues Hog, a bottle of Blues Hog that I had left over. Blues Hog makes pretty good barbecue sauce. I've had several of different kinds from them. They're all really good, so I just happen to have this in the fridge, and I thought I would use it up tonight. So now when I get done glazing this and we put the lid back on and turn the rotisserie on, this is where we want to be really careful, because this can go from perfect to overdone really quickly, and it's so much better when you hit that 145 internal temperature. It'll still be good at 150 or 155, it really will, but not as good. Okay, so we're going to give this about 5 minutes to set, and I'm going to check that temperature again. We'll see where we are. So I will bring you back in just a couple of minutes. All right, it has been just shy of 10 minutes. I do want to take another temp check here. $140. And this is so oddly shaped. I'm going to take a check in a couple different places. 144. $143. So we're taking this off. This is done. So obviously this spit is super hot. You gotta definitely be careful. I'm using some heat resistant gloves, but even with these I'm going to really be careful, because they only go up to a certain level of protection. So we want to let this rest. I'm going to put it under a foil tent inside and just leave the spit in it. I'm not even going to touch the spit for probably 15 to 20 minutes at least. So this can definitely handle a good rest, even up to 30 to 45 minutes. But we're anxious to eat, so probably in about 20 minutes we will take the spit out and slice her up. Okay, so this has been resting for about 20 minutes. I had a foil tent over it, so I pulled that off and then also took the spit out. So we're going to go ahead and slice it up and taste it. So just to recap, we had a pork loin. It's about half of a whole pork loin. We added our rubs to it, our Killer Hogs Hot The Barbecue Rub, as well as Meat Church Honey Hog, which I really love on pork. I encourage you to try it. This is looking great. By the way, the juice is outrageous. We put it on the rotisserie. It was on probably an hour and a half. Took it to a temperature of around 142 internal, and then let it rest to get to that perfect medium 145. And so hopefully you can see that is absolutely done perfectly. I'm going to slice a few more slices and then we're going to taste it. Okay. I'm going to add a little something here. If you've never tried Captain Rodney's Boucan Glaze, it's outstanding. It's a Scotch bonnet pepper glaze. It's sweet, a little spicy, but not bad at all. Goes perfect on pork. And if you watched my how to smoke cream cheese video, it is great after you smoke your cream cheese to pour a little of it on there. So Captain Rodney's, grab some. Okay, I'm going to cut this into a few pieces here. And we're going to taste it. Okay, always my favorite part. It's time to taste. So I'm just going to take this piece here. Really good. Very moist, tender. Barbecue sauce is great, and I love me some Captain Rodney's Boucan Glaze. So get yourself some of that. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks so much for joining me again. Please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Really would appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.